Ooh, what's up, fellas? Happy to see everybody's beautiful faces again for another episode of the Blind Pig, courtesy of BGObsession.com. We've got kind of a special pod going tonight. This is our mock. A lot of people have been putting their mocks out lately, but we do things a little bit differently here. We each get assigned a round, and we go kind of to blows a little bit, break down some prospects, and we collectively be a war room as opposed to one person putting out their mock. We've done this in a couple years past. I think we've hit like one or two draft picks, which is kind of a feather in our cap, which is more than a lot of people can say, which is also not anywhere near what a lot of other people can say, but we'll take our wins where we can get them. So I think John hit Brian Robinson last year, if I'm not mistaken.
John hit Jamin Davis. I had Robinson last year, but I picked him I think the team ended up drafting him around earlier than we took him in our mock last year.
We
But John
definitely
hit
talked
Jamin
about
Davis.
Brian Robinson in
Mhm.
the
Yep.
preview.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one other thing to get out of the way before we get rolling on this, head over to bgobsession.com. We still have the draft pool contest going on right now, where you can make your own mock draft, make every pick for the Commanders and what you think they're going to do. And for bragging rights, we've had two different winners each of the 2 years that we've done this. So we'll see how things work out there. To get it out of the way, we're going to use profootballnetwork.com's simulator. And Neo is reaching out.
My camera's all fuzzy tonight. It doesn't seem to want to focus. I don't know what the deal is.
I thought it was the whistle piggyback. Ron was drinking.
No, it is. You haven't had that much yet, John. I might get fuzzier as the night goes on, but yeah.
Well, like I said, to get the deets out of the way, we're using profootballnetwork.com's mock draft simulator. It will be linked in the YouTube page as well as on the thread. It's the best one that I've seen. So first up is going to be Mark. Mark has our first round pick. I'll go ahead and launch our screen here, and we can watch it kind of unfold.
And
let me know when you guys can see it.
So those of you listening and watching know this website, the simulator is going to throw a lot of projected and a lot of trades at us, a lot of trade options. We are not going to do trades, but if we get to a pick and we're not sure about it, we'll talk about them but don't look for us to be making trades live during this thing.
Correct, because there will be some trades that pop up that I think all of us would take very quickly, that we all can agree that probably either unlikely, or for the fact of doing this exercise, we just want to rule out, and we're not going to accept any trades because this is more of a cut and dry thing. So I'll kick this off. Let's see who the Panthers take number 1 overall. Bryce Young. That's not
Shocker
true,
there. Ooh.
Anderson to the Cardinals.
Anthony Richardson leapfrogs Levis and oh no, sorry, he didn't leapfrog it.
There goes Carter. Carter goes earlier than a lot of people are projecting.
There's Johnson.
Top corner off the board.
Yeah. There goes Bijan.
I've seen a lot of people mocking Bijan Robinson to the Eagles, and I just don't know if I see it.
There goes your guy, Devin Weathers.
Yeah, there he goes.
And there goes
Skoronski.
Wow.
Broderick Jones is gone. All right, well, so we could get Austin Eckler and the 21st pick. If they did not take this trade, I would be supremely upset.
I would agree that it's tempting, depending on what they had in mind at 16, if there's someone they really liked.
True.
Eckler, what's his contract situation? Wouldn't that be a little bit of a sticky wicket?
Yeah, maybe he would. I don't know. On the surface, I'd get excited, but maybe that's the Madden player in me.
We could get 19 and move up to 50. That's pretty tempting too.
Mm-hmm. All right, so reject those. All right, John or Mark, sorry.
Well, if Anthony Richardson had fallen, I'd be talking to you guys that we need to take him, but I don't feel that way about Levis. That's not the guy. You don't throw it all in the hat for him. Brian Branch is a guy, I know we're looking for corners. Branch is intriguing, and I know he played a lot of corner in college. I think he projects as a potentially a pretty good safety, but it doesn't feel like quite the right fit to me there either.
So there's one consensus number one player on the board. I'm just throwing it out there. I wouldn't take him here, but
Oh, I know you're the tight
Kincaid.
ends. Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid is a really, really good tight end.
Yes, he is. And Michael Mayer is also available, who's sort of the number one ranked on different boards, depending on who you look at. I don't feel strongly that would be a bad pick, but I've sort of thought that if Joey Porter fell to us at 16, that feels like a pretty solid pick to me.
Yeah.
This is a guy who I think is going to be a solid pro, 6'2.5", 195 pounds now before he hits an NFL training table in the weight room. I think he's got the goods. He's a 4.46 guy. He's aggressive. He's played big time college ball and had productivity. He sounds to me like a guy who can play press and zone from the reading I've done. At 16, some people are going to say that's a little high, but to me, that's a guy that's a really solid pick for our team here. Unless there are strong objections, I think that's what I'd go with.
I like it.
Anybody else?
Mark, I'm very happy that you're electing to go with a cornerback at that spot. The three offensive linemen who went off the board, Skoronski, Jones, and Paris Johnson, if one of those guys would have been there, then I would say that would have been a discussion piece. But with the remaining offensive linemen that are still available, that's definitely a reach at 16. So I'm quite happy that you're going corner. I would be thrilled with something like that plays out. Yeah, I know you're circling right there, Derek. I feel like that might be a little bit not necessarily a reach, but the thing with going with a guy like Darnell Wright at 16 is, he's projected at this point to be a right tackle. He could potentially play left tackle as well, but you have two veterans, two fairly proven players in Riley and Leno. And I know Leno had a down year, but are you necessarily going to pick someone at 16 and, have two potentially capable players already on the roster? I don't know.
Paul, I just want to ask you, because I don't remember you talking about Broderick Jones. Do you not like him, or are you just assuming that there's no way he could drop to 16?
No, I think he's like a premium player. I didn't talk about him on our last podcast because I thought that there would be absolutely no way that he would be there. So I kind of focused on guys that would potentially be there where we picked. But yeah, I think he's a fantastic player. If the opportunity presented itself, maybe you think about that, certainly.
Yeah, none of the top tackles ever fell to 16 in the mocks that I was running. Paul, just so you know, if I had to choose between Porter and Skoronski, we would have an offensive lineman at number one. I really kind of fell for that guy. I like everything about his game. The only reason he's not the consensus number one offensive tackle that I can tell is that his arms are like 3/4 of an inch shorter than the premium, what the profile is now. Jeez. But I heard guys saying not only is he maybe the number one tackle as a player, but that even if he failed at tackle or didn't prove to be elite at tackle in the NFL, that he's probably a perennial Pro Bowl guard, like a Zach Martin kind of guard. So that was going to be a slam dunk pick for me. So Porter's a little bit of a consolation prize, but I still feel pretty good about him.
I kind of feel like it's worth pointing out that if you go use another draft simulator, it's amazing the differences.
Mm-hmm.
I tried 2 or 3 other ones, and one of the top 3 tackles was almost always there on other draft simulators.
Just don't think that's likely to happen, right? I mean,
I don't know.
Happens.
I don't know. I mean, Joey Porter has been gone so much of the time other places, Mark, that it's kind of bizarre. But
I think what these simulators don't capture is sometimes there's a run on a position, like a team has a certain desire to fill a need, even though they'll deny it to their fans. And then a guy goes early, and then next thing you know, there's like 3 wide receivers taken in a 4-pick stretch. And that's where the simulators don't really, I don't think they can kind of capture that kind of thing.
kind of like happened last year with wide receivers in the draft when what
Yes.
Jalen we took Dotson, what, the 6th receiver
5th or 6th, yeah.
at what number?
14 or 15.
No, we were originally
We
there,
traded
and then we
back. I
traded
think he was
back.
at 21.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
All right, so
John,
we're
just
going
before-
Porter, right?
I'm sorry.
I'm
Porter.
locking in Porter, right?
Yeah, but before you like hit run again, John, so you'll know if Porter and Skoronski were gone, I was going to be throwing to you and letting you probably talk about the tight ends, because that probably would have been the move. And I wouldn't have been happy about it, because I think in real life, if those guys are gone, we're trading back anyway.
I agreed. Yeah.
Joey Porter locked in. Nobody said anything about my guy Foskey. I think he's going to be special. I'm just saying.
I thought about it. I did think about it.
I would have thought about it too, Derek, but we already have 4 first-round draft picks starting on
That's-
the defensive line. It just,
Well, that's my point. Is you can't keep them all, and you're probably going to lose both Sweat and Young. If you do this, you got 5 years of control on your edge rusher at a rookie.
Yeah, but
price.
you haven't taken care of the positions of way greater need
I know.
on the team, right? That's the opposite
hey,
argument.
Meyer just went ahead of Kincaid. Did you catch that?
Yep.
I've seen
And
him.
there
I've
goes
seen-
Foskey.
And there goes Kincaid. 28 to the Bengals because they need more weapons. Sure, that's fun.
Hey man, if I've got Joe Burrow, I'm getting him weapons too.
Anton Harrison, 31st to the Chiefs. Didn't he come in for a visit this past week? Tackle at Oklahoma.
And there goes Wright and Torrance. There's your run. Look at that. Harrison, Wright, and then Torrance at guard, and Jones at
Oh, Hooker goes to the Titans, who
Seahawks.
just took Malik. What's his name last year?
no.
No, no,
Hooker
it's-
went to Seattle.
Seattle.
Oh,
Dino Smith.
all
That's
right.
probably that actually makes a lot of sense because
Time
you
for
got
a new
two.
prescription.
Because he can afford to sit for a couple seasons and get 100% behind a guy. Gino, they just signed to a decent deal. Joe Tippmann, the first center off the board.
Oh, and there goes Schmitz.
Sons
right.
of bitches.
Second round. First off, we would never work with you, New York Giants, or you Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, let's see who's left. Oh man, there's 3 or 4 guys here I could jump on.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, well, yeah, it really is good. And honestly, I think this is going to be the pick where we have our choice of a number of guys that we're interested in. You know, right off the bat, I'd be willing to look at Washington at tight end out of Georgia. You know, John obviously is going to know more about him than I do, but the little bit of tape I've looked at, he looks like the real deal too.
He's a freak physically.
Yeah.
And at the combine, he was a freak, but he doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't have the production, but he played behind a really good tight end. So, but as far as NFL potential, I think you can make an argument. Some people would take him first of any of the tight ends.
You know, NFL Draft Buzz has him as the number 2 tight end in the land. The guy is 6'7", 264, runs a 4.6.
Those are Gronk numbers. I mean, jeez.
You can make a case here, Bob. Seriously.
Yeah, you really could. But all right, so other guys that I looked at because I had linebacker. I mean, if you jump down to 51,
I see 2 guys screaming out at me right now.
Yeah,
well, DJ Turner, but we just took a corner.
Yeah, but if you jump down to 51, there's Jack Campbell
And 53, Steve Avila, who
yeah. But bounce up to 47 too. Drew Sanders. I didn't say anything about him last week because I didn't think I felt like he was going to go right against the end of the first round, the beginning of the second round. I thought Jack would fall this far. Drew Sanders is another solid stud. I mean, there are literally 4 guys right here that I could take. And then there's Avila. Paul, how do you feel about that?
So I kind of wanted to yell at my screen, Bob, and I wanted to tell you to pick him. He is probably one of my 2 or 3 favorite players in this entire draft. That is a plug and play true pro. I talked about him last week. Coaches think the world of him. He's got that leadership. He's versatile. He can play anywhere on the line. He's one of those guys that you can just plug into your lineup and you will not have a worry in the world that he'll be able to lock down a starter spot. And for a second round pick, that's all you can ask for. I'm not saying to pick him, but I mean, if I was in round 2, that's what I
This
would
would be
personally
yours.
have done. But I
Yeah.
also have an affinity for offensive line. I love offensive linemen. So
Does he play? Did he play predominantly right or left in college?
left guard.
Left guard.
Yeah.
We'll see which would leave the right guard spot open for Cosme with what we did in free agency. So
Well, and it would open the door that you could then get rid of Norwell and save the cap space.
right.
Because you just picked up the cap from the Giants. What's his name?
His senior year, he played 13
Gates.
games, 900 snaps. He allowed no sacks and 2
Yeah.
QB hits.
Yeah,
that's-
you've got Gates who can be your swing guard / backup center. So if you're taking Avila here, he's your start. He's probably your start with intention to be your starting left guard, and it frees up the ability to cut somewhere else.
Scroll down a little, Derek, just because we don't want to be locked into what their numbers are.
Yeah, DJ Turner be a thought to, but we already took a cornerback.
Yeah.
I can't figure out Cody Mouch. I can't figure him out. I've heard some people think he could be a late first round pick. Other people think he could fall to the 4th or the 5th. I can't wrap my brain around that guy.
See, and I keep coming back to 50. I keep coming back to Jack Campbell. I keep looking at Jack Campbell and thinking he's that glue that maybe we're missing in the dead center of the defense. You know, that I keep, I'm a romantic.
So
I probably remember Neil Oklowitz with more romanticism than was really there, right? For a backwoods gnarly guy with a beard and bald head, but we just I keep. Here's the problem: we burned our first round draft pick on a cornerback, and I feel like promises were made to one Eric Bieniemy regarding the draft and what we were going to do. And I feel like the second round picks kind of got to go to the offense, which means either Washington or Avila. And unless, oh my gosh, unless you guys are.
Well, there's two conversations.
I don't
be had.
If that's the choice, don't go Washington, man. Because Washington is a boomer bust player. He could be the best tight end in the draft, or he could be
the worst.
And we all came into this really knowing that the weakness on the team last year, besides original starting quarterback, was the offensive line
and the interior of the offensive line. I mean, that's where the pressure came from. Yeah, I've got to go with Avila here. I don't feel like I've got a choice.
There are two conversations to be had. There's what we want to happen and what we think is going to happen. They don't always line up.
No, that's true. That's true. But I feel like Avila's the player here, unless you guys just feel strongly otherwise. But if I'm the guy turning in the card, then that's where we're going.
I support that wholly.
Paul, did you mute yourself on purpose, bud?
No, I muted myself because I have my little puppy with me and she's chewing on a bone. And I just don't want that to interfere with the sound.
And she keeps saying, Avila.
So it's Avila. So now that's
we like dogs. You're good.
That's a solid pick. We did good there.
It's all downhill from here.
DJ Turner to the Bucks.
I don't think it is though, John. I feel like this is a deep draft in some places.
Jack Campbell just went there. Jack Campbell.
Well, I mean, with our picks, not with the.
See, that's crazy.
The Jaguars get Campbell.
Yeah, but in the Lions take Keon White. They've got Hutchison. I mean, I don't know who's on the other side.
See, and I don't see the Jaguars taking Campbell this year. They took Devin Lloyd last year, and at the end of the season, their defense was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Musgrave goes to the Chiefs because that needs to happen. Sure.
Well, Kelsey's not getting any younger.
See, and this is that part of the draft. I feel like we're going to start seeing some surprises.
I've got a couple names circled here, and I'm starting to get there was one of them, Sidney Brown. If I could see us picking him.
There's
Well,
Kraft. That's a guy that I wanted.
You know, as we've kind of been kicking around on the board, I mean, they let McCain go. So there's, as much as we feel like safety is a strength of this team, there is a hole in that safety room after letting McCain go. They kind of got to do something. I think Percy Butler probably plays the position, but you still got to have another body.
The thing with Sidney Brown is he plays like a linebacker. Like if you watch his film and he plays a lot of that. I hate to say the box safety, but it's kind of the only way to explain it. But he's got the physical ability to play the pass. He's not restricted in his ability, you know, where he's better against like one way or the other. He's good enough to play both areas. So there have been some mocks that he has fallen to me at 97, and it's gotten me excited.
Giants go defensive tackle. Cowboys go safety.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got 97?
Me. And I think my guy's going to be there, and it's probably going to send you guys out the. Well, there's two guys. All right, they might both be there. 106 and 138 for 90. That wouldn't be a terrible trade, I guess, especially seeing who's still on the board.
They must be updating their rankings because Overshone, that guy was projected to be like a 4th or 5th rounder.
Mm-hmm. And now this is more
up
realistic.
until the last 2 weeks. He's just like screaming up draft boards.
I'm telling you, they're listening to our podcast and watching our board because this BGO's been talking about Marvion Overshone since mid-February.
Oh, hey, scroll down, Derek, on the available guys side. Look at like 132 earlier today, like 4 o'clock when I was running them. Overshone was 132. I want to see if there's a hole between 131 and 132.
So Zach Kuntz is sitting there.
Yeah. So basically they're saying that the Cardinals are going to jump on him early.
Oh, my guy is gone. All right, if he falls here, be ready. I'm just going to put this name out there. He's not available today, but Jaden Reed out of Michigan State, the wide receiver. I could see Bieniemy salivating over this guy, and he might be the best kick returner in the draft. He's a spark plug slot guy. I could see Bieniemy standing. If he's at 97, I can see Bieniemy standing on the table for him. Well, he's gone. At this point, we've taken a guard and we've taken a corner.
There's Zach Kuntz.
That's the name that's jumping off me, jumping out at me right now.
Cameron Latou had pretty good numbers at Alabama too. I looked at him a little bit.
We talked about Henley in our pod, right?
Yeah, we talked about Henley. My problem with Henley is I feel like he's a converted wide receiver and he's only got 2 years at linebacker, and he's a brilliant athlete. He's just a fantastically tremendous athlete. But we already have a linebacker on the team that's a tremendous athlete that we drafted high he's still developing the instincts. You know, if we're looking at linebackers, I want to look at somebody towards the middle. So Alabama's Henry Tutu is in there.
Yeah, I did edge. I think it's still early to take Byron Young here, but this could be I mean, I don't know. You guys explain to me why Kuntz isn't the pick right now.
I mean, he's probably got the highest upside of any of the tight ends. Even maybe more than Washington, just because of his size and athleticism.
So NFL Draft Buzz has him as the 12th rated,
tight end in the draft.
Yeah.
Scroll down. They have a pretty good average or draft projection round. It's about 2/3 of the way down the page.
He's another guy that has shot way up on most draft boards because of his measurables.
Andre Carter Jr.'s on the board.
Yeah, I saw that. There's your legacy pick if you're nostalgic.
Well, we've already got one.
Yeah, Porter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except that the original Porter didn't play for us, right? He played for Pittsburgh.
True.
Carter actually suited up for
Washington.
Washington for a while. My only knock against Kuntz is Old Dominion, man.
Well, but he didn't play. That was just That was just for his senior and then fifth year years. He was up at Penn State out of high school, played there in 2018 and 2019. 2020, he just couldn't really get on the field. Then he went to ODU and started to light it up a little bit. But I tell you what, with the kind of game experience he has and that size, that's a guy you plug in and helps you right away, certainly in the red zone.
And again, if we want to talk about working the cap, you pick up Zach Kuntz, and that means that you can move on from Logan Thomas. You can probably move on from either Hodges or Rogers.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go into the season with Kuntz. Oh God, who was our block? Now my mind's blanking.
John
now.
Bates.
So
Bates,
one of the
Cole
reasons
Turner.
Kuntz has kind of been under the radar is he went to Penn State. He was a top pick at Penn State, sat behind other top tight end prospects, transferred to ODU. His first season, 73 catches, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. He was hurt most of 2022. But I think that's why he's kind of been under the radar, is some of that stuff.
He's been moving up the board though, because if I remember correctly, 2 weeks ago he was mid 5th or 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
got,
the guys with the measurables, man, the closer we get to the draft, they just start climbing because of the ceiling, and especially once you get out of the first couple rounds, teams are looking for guys that are kind of the more boomer bust guys with the high ceilings.
well, not to pour it on, but you're talking about a 6'7", 260-pound guy who runs a 4.5 and has a 40-inch vertical. I mean, you can find ways to use a guy like that.
All right,
Kinda
so
screams mismatch, doesn't he?
is anybody gonna debate the pick?
No complaints here.
No.
All right,
Eric Bieniemy's dancing.
he is. I bet you if he got Jaden Reed, he'd be dancing also. But
I hear you.
that was my guy. I had him circled. I was hoping he would be there.
Hugh Blue Kelly.
You know, for
All
those of
the
you
all-name team.
keeping score at home, that Zach Kuntz pick is courtesy of Mr. Scherf.
Yeah.
Yeah, the compensatory.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Is there ever been a better named running back than Tank Bigsby?
No, not for a second.
That can't be real, right?
Not for a second. Right there. That's right up there with Bakari Rambo, our free safety from a couple years ago. Oh, Byron Young went off the board somewhere.
So in the right column at the top with the prospects that are left, you can sort them by offense and defense too, which might be useful at this point.
Who's up at 118? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's me at 118, Derek. So
All right.
yeah.
OG Whisperer.
So start of day 3, I suppose, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Based on, all my years of watching the draft, this often becomes that point in the draft where, people might reach for players. You might have some picks where people are saying, hey, wait a second, we could have got that guy in the 6th and we picked him in the 4th.
Good Lord, Derek. Calm down.
Sorry.
There's a couple guys when I was running these and just fiddling with it over the last little bit. There's a couple guys that I was hoping would be here in this round. Byron Young, the guy that you talked about from Tennessee, I thought would have been a perfect pick here at this point in the draft. I believe he went already. Am I
He
correct?
did.
He did. He went
101. Okay. So I had a couple other names in mind. I don't know how far down the list he is currently, but when I was fiddling with it, he was in around the 150s. I wanted to talk about him last week when I talked about offensive linemen, and here I am talking about offensive linemen again. I wanted to talk about Jarrett Patterson, not the current Jarrett Patterson that we have, but Jarrett Patterson, the offensive center / left guard from Notre Dame. For sake of time and out of respect for you guys and allowing you guys to have opportunities to profile your guys as well. I left him off my list, but he's a really intriguing player to me. He was a guy who played center for 3 straight years for Notre Dame. As a senior, he played left guard. So he's got that versatility. He's thought of as being a really, really good run blocker, intelligent, versatile, got a little bit of a mean streak to him, and just a guy who goes all out effort type thing. So he checks off those boxes for the types of intangibles of a Rivera player. He could be a player that, you know, down the line as a day 3 player, eventually turns into a starter for you. And when you think of a guy like Chase Roulier, who's our current center, and there's obviously some major concerns in terms of his long-term health. I mean, he's been a pretty solid player for us, but there is that health issue. So Patterson might be a thought there.
He played left guard his senior year. He did play 3 years as center, but he had his strongest year as a left guard.
Yes. Yes, and then I suppose the other thing to consider too is Bob went and picked Steve Avila with their 2nd round pick with the eye of becoming our left guard. So I'm kind of torn here. I think as a day 3 pick, Patterson would be pretty safe. He can be a guy who can contribute for you, and you know, as a 4th rounder, I think that would be a great add. Can you scroll a little bit further up, Derek? There was a couple.
I think he's a 5th rounder. That's the only quibble I would have, is I think he might be sitting there with the 5th pick.
You're right, and that's why I guess I opened this with that idea of, oh, it wouldn't be uncommon for a team to reach, and you know, day 3, if you're going to reach, it would be day 3 type thing, I suppose, or I would hope at least. The linebacker out of Pittsburgh, Dennis, Servoka Dennis, who we talked about last week. I think it was Bob who talked about him.
Yep.
He just looks like a football player type thing. And I mean, that would certainly be a good add there as well. Bob, can you contribute anything in terms of his contributions on special teams? Because on day 3, I think that's one of the main things that you look for, guys who can immediately come in and contribute on teams. Was he involved in that at all at Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he was involved in that in Pittsburgh, and watching his film, although they didn't show a lot of special team stuff, he absolutely looked to me like the prototypical old school linebacker on special teams. The guy's got tremendous vision and understanding of where he is and where the ball is on the field. And I just thought that whole thing spoke well of special teams. He's not going to be great in terms of, if you put him on the field with a defense, he's not a coverage linebacker. He's going to be a liability if he's got to cover, but he's going to be a pretty good run stuffer.
Mm-hmm. He's a really athletic guy. He played quarterback on his high school football team. He played basketball in high school and lacrosse. So he's not your typical. He's not a stiff guy. He can move, and he can move left to right. Even though I know what you're saying, Bob, but I watched a lot of film of him. He's better in coverage than I think you're indicating. He's just not a burner, and he's probably more of like a Cole Holcomb, bigger, stronger Cole Holcomb type.
Well, and frankly, in a defense that puts 2 linebackers on the field, you don't necessarily need him to be a coverage guy. You need him to play within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, fill holes.
Yep.
Take the inside zone, so that if he's a physical inside presence who can hold up against the run and contribute, we've got Jamin Davis as the mobile guy and 5 DBs.
I had to laugh. One of the reports about him I read was that, he's got a real problem when offensive line guys get to the 2nd level. And I thought, when was the last time I saw an offensive line guy get to the 2nd level against Daron Payne and against our starting defensive tackles? It just doesn't happen very often. The linebackers are pretty clean most of the time.
I was hoping he was going to drop to the 5th round so I could look smart by suggesting him, but so obviously I think he would be a great pick here.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing to consider, because I talked about the possibility of going with an interior lineman and potentially filling that long-term center need. We talked about our black hole at linebacker and how we've ignored linebacker forever. So Patterson, Dennis, One of those two potentially. The only other thing that I can think of right now that we might want to look at, I don't know if there are any offensive tackles or true left tackles available on the board.
Hey, Derek, click the offense tab on the top of the right column.
There's a guy that I have targeted in the 5th round that I think would address.
So
that.
there's Tyler Steen is there from Alabama.
Yeah,
The problem is, what are you getting with a 4th round tackle pick? You're getting the 10th or 12th best tackle in the country. That's the only problem.
right. And the other thing is you're getting someone with an eye towards development. Like you're not going to be plugging them in and replacing Leno or Wiley this year. You'd be literally bringing the guy in as a long-term project. And I don't know, I just feel like at this point we have a few greater needs and guys that we can utilize within our systems a bit more actively as 4th round picks. So if you want to get a project on your offensive line, maybe you wait it out until the 6th, potentially 7th round type thing, kind of like what we did with Chris Paul. I don't know. At this point, Patterson feels a little bit like a reach. Dennis doesn't seem like quite as big a reach. So would you guys be okay if we jumped on the linebacker bandwagon for once in the Ron Rivera era?
Let me ask you this, Paul. Do you feel like Patterson could start? Take Rollier out of this for a second. Do you feel like Patterson could come in and be the starter?
I don't think he would start in 2023. No.
If he started, it would be at left guard.
Because he's behind Rollier, or because he doesn't quite have it yet?
Yeah, there are some deficiencies in his game. I mean, he's got a lot of those intangibles that we look for, and a lot of the intangibles that Rivera looks for, but he's not a player that's coming in immediately and starting. He's not a Steve Avila type.
I ask because Chase Rollier was the 199th pick for Washington. Yeah. And he started 13 games as a rookie at center.
Mm-hmm.
And except when he's injured, he hasn't given that position up. And what I'm thinking in my head is, we talked earlier about the tight end position and how you could potentially free up cap space by letting go of Logan Thomas with picking up Kuntz. If you feel like Patterson's got it, there's a lot more cap space to pick up with Rollier than there is with Thomas.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point as well. And if I'm not mistaken, could Nick Gates not start at center if needed as well?
He can. He absolutely can. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not advocating that we pick up, that we pick Patterson. It's just,
I think Gates is the presumed starter.
Yeah, he could very well be.
I don't think they're gonna. That's just my opinion, but
see, and I think Gates is the presumed starter at left guard at the moment. I think if Rollier is healthy, he's the presumed starter at the moment. But I could be wrong.
One other name I'd like to throw at you, Paul, is Ronnie Hickman, the safety out of Ohio State.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a lot about him, so you'd have to fill me in and convince me.
I'll throw it at you. 6 foot, 203. He's not huge. Runs a 4.45 40. This is his breakdown of a quick synopsis. His strengths: he's fluid athleticism and speed. In the run game, he's aggressive coming downhill and he hits hard. Has good body control and balance to redirect and break down in the open field, and explosive movement skills and fluid athleticism. As a senior, when targeted, he had the QB rating of 65.8.
Yeah, that's really intriguing as well.
I mean, take that for what it's worth. He was ESPN grades him as a 4-star, 24/7 grades him as a 4-star. So does Rivals.com. He's from what I can tell, he's really his size is his biggest struggle. 6 foot, 203.
And I mean, let's face it, he's playing for one of the premier programs in the country.
Correct. Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this. This is me standing on my chair for a frickin' linebacker in Washington.
All right. Well, I just wanted to put it out there.
That's fair, John. That's fair.
So I all that being said, you guys offered a lot of great opinions and whatnot. All that being said, I was kind of silently jumping on the table and silently screaming when Steve Avila was on the board for Bob to pick him, and he did. So I think I'm going to return the favor back to Mark, and we're going to go with a linebacker. I think we're going to go with the kid out of Pittsburgh, Soroka Dennis.
So vote. There we go. Boom. The pick is in. We sure got
I'm
the
sorry,
music.
about 45 teams would have jumped ahead of us with all the debate we had going over the
Oh,
votes.
I promise you, debates get a lot more intense than that in real war rooms.
Well, and I was thinking about it, right? We just spent 10 or 12 minutes. What do they have? 10 minutes on the clock at this point. In
It might be 5 on day 3.
in the fourth round, is it down to 5 minutes?
It might be. I think so.
So you need to be, of course, they've got 50 names on their draft board.
They probably had a lot of those arguments already, you know.
Yeah.
There,
they're having
Hickman
those
went to the
arguments this
Chiefs.
week.
Jacorian Bennett, we talked about him. He goes to the Giants. I wonder how much these actually take like need into account.
I don't know. That's a good question.
It has to be part of their algorithm, right?
It's
What
gotta
would they-
be. It's
What would
gotta
they
be.
be doing otherwise?
Like the Chiefs. Oh, okay. I thought they took like 3 edge players, but
Took a tight end.
no. See, the Giants took 3 cornerbacks. That's the only problem that I have with this. Is really they're going to draft 3 corners. Sorry.
No, I don't see that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that would be hilarious if the Giants took 3 quarterbacks and we'd spend the week after the draft laughing about it. But
Uh-huh. Isaiah Land is a big time name that I kept seeing pop up, but I just could not fall in love with that guy. So while this is ticking away, we're in the 5th round. Paul, you mentioned that this is usually where you're picking your special. What are we looking for now? As we go into this pick, we've drafted a corner, which means our corner room's pretty much full at this point when you consider we've got Fuller making premium money. We've got presumably St. Just running the number 2 spot, right? Now we drafted Porter, so those 2 are probably going to compete for who's outside, who's inside, I'm assuming. Or maybe Fuller slides inside, and then you got St. Just on the one side and Porter in the other. We got Avila, we got Kuntz, and
we need more O-line help, man, and that's where I'm going. And the O-line is where the value is in this round.
Look who's still on the board. Look who's still falling.
I know. I'm watching
that. Might not be who I pick.
It might not be, but I'm just saying. All right. 150's on the board. We're on the clock.
Wicks was the one I was looking at. I didn't write him down, but he's a really good wide receiver.
Dontavian Wicks.
I'll be shocked if we take a wide receiver this year.
So I'll tell you who I'm leaning heavily towards, and that's Olusegun Olawatimi from Michigan. He's he was a starting center for UVA for 3 years, so I'm pretty familiar with him. He's 6'3", 310 pounds, played 3,500 college snaps, 4-year starter. He's been described as the quarterback of Michigan's offensive line. Very strong. He moves really well, side to side, a little bit better than Patterson does, in my opinion. Patterson's excellent. And he's also a really good run blocker, that's one of the things that is appealing about him.
You had me as quarterback of the offensive line. That gets lost, that the center calls the protections and organizes that shit, and you need a guy who can do it.
And that's a John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh offense. That's a pro style offense too. That's not
I don't know whether he's played other O-line positions. I hate to admit that. I don't know. I don't think he has, because he's been a starter everywhere he's been for 4 years. I looked at we already picked a corner. I don't see taking another corner. Safety's still a need. Tyjae Spears, by the way, that guy's electric running back. But I don't know if I feel like that's not a priority need.
Sounds like a luxury pick, right?
I mean, he's something else. He's 5'10", 190. He did tear an ACL like back in 2020, but last year he ran for almost 1,600 yards and 19 touchdowns. He's fast as hell. Breakaway speed. but he's small. And he probably would be a special teamer as well, but I just don't see us taking a running back at least. I mean, who knows? They could surprise us. Scroll down just a little bit more, Derek.
Nobody's jumping off the page at me.
Well, I mean, to me, it's Patterson or
Yeah.
But again, I am fixated on. I think we need more than one offensive lineman with the potential to start or play significant time.
Demario Douglas out of Liberty, but he screams Antonio Goldie Gannon to me. You know what? Like one of the like a guy that looks like the biggest man on the men amongst boys, but then it ends up that he is a man amongst boys, and then when he gets around other men, he just kind of doesn't do what he's supposed to do.
Well, for me, looking at this pick for this team, walking away so far with one offensive lineman is really unsatisfactory. I think it's almost malpractice. If you can bring in a guy who has played big time college football at
Starting.
center and called signals in a pro style offense and has excelled, and you can get him at this point on the third day for this team, I think that's a very solid option.
Oh, and at the moment he looks like real value, right? He's been projected consistently to go in the 4th round. I mean,
He and Patterson are both he and Patterson would have been listed more as a 4th rounder. So, but I think he's more athletic than Patterson. Patterson's like your stalwart, solid across the board. There's nothing wrong with that guy, but he's just not as athletic as Oluwatimi is.
I also like the fact that Oluwatimi was able to. Well, of course, Paul, I think you said Patterson started for 4 years too, right? He played 3 years at center and then his senior year at guard.
Yes.
Yes, he
But
did.
I love the idea that these guys made the jump from high school to college and immediately walked on the field and started pushing college guys around. Bodes well for making the jump from college to the NFL and doing the same.
Yeah, here's a report on him as a freshman. In 2019, as a freshman, Oluwatimi saw action in 14 games and played 933 snaps.
Jeez.
He allowed 11 QB hurries, no hits, and 4 sacks while playing at center. The following year, he brought that down to 2 QB hits and no sacks. The year after that, as a junior, 5 QB hits and 3 sacks. And then after that, after his junior year, he transferred to Michigan, allowing 4 QB hurries, 5 QB hits, and no sacks.
And yeah, John, it sounds like he's a true center. There's no talk here about
all at center. Every statistical category is listed as a center.
And he's described as a cerebral player, which is kind of music to my ears, and as a guy who could step in early and contribute.
And he's a hometown kid, Upper
DeMatha.
Marlboro, Maryland.
DeMatha, yep.
Yeah.
Unless somebody has someone else they want to, stand on the table for, that's going to be my pick.
I'm good with either he or Patterson. Paul made a great argument for Patterson. You've made a great argument for Oluwatimi.
You can't go wrong with either guy. Essentially, at the end of the day, you're talking 2 pretty solid programs: Michigan, Notre Dame. Michigan linemen are always a fairly safe pick. So I mean, that pick I think would be something we should all be thrilled with, John.
Well, the other thing to consider, not to be crappy here, but the other thing to consider is Oluwatimi is playing at Michigan in the Big Ten, where the interior linemen he's facing are on a different level than Patterson is facing at Notre Dame when he's playing predominantly in ACC. Oluwatimi's out there blocking big corn-fed guys in 22-degree weather. All right, we're going with the guy whose name that a lot of people are going to have to learn how to say after he's drafted. How about that?
Yep.
I'm hoping Chase Young comes back and has a great year, but if they decide he's not going to cut it, I really feel like and I'm a little worried about Gates too. I mean, that horrific leg injury and New York was willing to let him go. That's a little disturbing.
Here's the problem is I'm writing this down and I don't have his name in front of me to write this.
Oluwatimi?
Yeah.
What do you need? Last
Starts
name?
with an O.
Nope. I think I got it actually.
Oluwatimi.
That's what I put. OC out of Michigan. Even though I don't know why I'm writing this down, so I'm just going to pull up our history and screenshot it. All right, now we're into the 6th and 7th round. We have 2 6th and 1 7th, and this is going to be completely debatable. There is no one person that has been assigned these picks, correct?
Correct. Oh wow.
So-
Jarrett Patterson drops all the way to 170, goes to
Mhm.
goes to Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
I don't either. I don't know. I feel all right. So I feel like in 6 and 7, I feel like we have to draft another quarterback. I mean, right now the third quarterback on the roster is Jake Fromm.
Yeah, I have him. I mean, well, yeah, probably.
So that kicker from Michigan, man, is going to be a great kicker. I'm just saying. I know we don't believe in drafting kickers,
What?
but I
What
might
kicker?
draft a kicker.
Oh, Yaya Diaby fell all the way to 182.
In the 6th round, John, I have no problem drafting a kicker.
We took a long snapper in the 5th. I mean, the cheese needs some help.
We actually traded up to take the cheese too, didn't we?
Rakeem Jarrett
so.
fell all the way to the 6th round too. That's another name that I thought could go early day 3.
Well, there's the kicker from Ohio State.
Where? Oh, here.
195. Yeah, or
Rebels?
193. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're on the board.
I wonder if that Michigan kicker, still on special teams. I wonder if that Michigan kicker got taken.
Nope, he's
still
right there,
there.
Jake Moody.
Moody.
This is a name I'm going to throw out there, guys. Deuce Vaughn. If you guys saw the conference championship game, that guy was absolutely freaking electric. Just explosive running back.
There's 3 quarterbacks you were talking
I was going to
about.
say, you got Dugan on there who managed to take his team all the way to the national championship game.
And Hainer, a lot of people have connected us to Hainer.
I don't like the TCU kid Deegan. Something about him bothers me, Bob. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
He's very Tim Tebow-ish, right?
He's got a vicious overbite, man. I don't know.
I know there's just something about his game, and the bigger the game, I didn't like the look in his eyes. You know, it bothered me. I didn't think he was. I think the moment got too big for him.
Fair. All right.
But what do I know? You know,
I don't know anything about these quarterbacks. I'm just going to tell you. So.
There's another one. There's 4 quarterbacks.
Yep.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Aiden O'Connell, Max Duggan, and Jake Hainer.
I looked at tape of O'Connell at one point in time this year, and I've mocked him into the 6th or 7th round a couple of times. I'm not sold. He just, I mean, all these guys, if these guys were better, they'd be going higher, right?
hey, Derek, pull up our picks so far.
God, I would be thrilled with that draft so far.
I learned something tonight. I didn't know you could click on the team icon and see them.
See their draft?
I've been using this draft simulator for 3 years now. I didn't know that. Feel dumb.
So these last 3 picks are where you need a full-time scouting department because Rivera's going, who the hell is that?
Well, and if you're not looking to fill needs anymore, you're looking to try to hit a home run. So maybe a guy who's explosive out of the backfield for Bieniemy to play with as a toy in schemes. Maybe a kicker if you think that your guy is kind of.
I was hoping Ty Spears would be here because he's that kid, man. He's that guy that doesn't have the size, but he's got like incredible speed.
Right.
Hey,
Well,
so
that's like Deuce Vaughn.
question: does Deuce Vaughn have any return experience?
5'5".
Huh?
Runs a 4.3.
Oh, he sounds like a Ty Spears clone though.
5'5", 179. Oh my gosh, you could like put him
Darren
in
Sproles, bro.
Yeah.
Well, and who's the kid Pacheco that they had in Kansas City last year, who nobody saw coming? I forget where they drafted him, but I'd have no problem.
He was a 7th rounder.
I have no problem taking a hit on a guy with speed.
He'll run people over.
Whether he'd had return skills or not, because
that's what I'm trying to find out right now. I think he has a history of returns, but I don't know that he was necessarily. So here's his scouting report on Draft Buzz. Flashes initial burst, decisive once he locates a hole, competitiveness and knack for high pointing the ball. Elite as a receiver, runs routes as well as most receivers, has natural hands in snatching the ball away from the body. Has the feet and feel running between the tackles and in the open field. Very good vision. It doesn't say anything about his return ability.
When I
Yeah,
think of
no,
a guy
that's-
like that, I think of a guy that in an offense that's a quick, get the ball out quick offense. I'm thinking about lining him up off the ball in the slot, moving him around, trying to isolate him on a linebacker or a safety. There's no way any of them can stay with a kid like that. And you try to target him a half a dozen times a game to get him the ball in space.
He
So
could be
as a
our
ju-
next. He could be our next Rock Cartwright, right? Wasn't he a Kansas Stater?
Rock Cartwright didn't have any, I mean, he didn't
No,
have
I
any
know.
wheels though. He was
as a
bowling ball.
junior in 13 games, he ran for 1,430 yards on 270 attempts
I
for a
think
5.3 average with 8 touchdowns and a single fumble. And as a receiver, he also caught the ball 43 times for 373 yards.
I mean,
The
I
kid
think
has
that's
hands
exactly
and
the kind
runs
of guy to take.
4.3.
As a sophomore, the year before, he had in 13 games, he ran for 1,409 yards on 234 carries at a 6 yard per carry average with 18 touchdowns and a single fumble. He also had 49 receptions for 468 yards. The year before that, 25 receptions for 434 yards. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
voting Vaughn. I'm gonna let y'all hash
The
it
big-
out, but
The big negative against Vaughn is his pass blocking, and he's going to be in on passing downs.
Not as a pass blocker, he's not.
No, he's not. I mean, that's the
He'll
point,
be a
right?
check down
Once you
option at
see
that
him
point.
come
Yeah, I mean,
in, once you see him come in, you know there's nobody back there to pick up the blitz.
No,
Which
but you
means
do
if
have
the
to
blitz is
account
coming,
for
you
him.
throw it to him.
He's your hot read guy,
Yeah,
right?
he's Santana. He's a Santana Moss type. He's not going to be blocking anybody.
Yeah, the whole point would be to move him around. Someone's got to go with him. So it's an intriguing pick to me. It's kind of like taking a shot at the lottery, and that we're in the 6th
Yep.
round.
I
I'll
can live
sign
with
off on
Vaughn.
that, Derek.
I could pick a kicker out of Ohio State.
Well, for all intents and purposes, the Ohio State kicker. Oh, never mind. Sorry, the Michigan kicker will probably be there when we're up next again, just based on this. But
Just picture us all going, dude.
yep. Mhm.
That
Is
alone
that
has
the pick?
value.
Who's the pick?
I'm good with Vaughn. You talk me into it.
I like it.
Make it happen, Derek.
All right, I'll keep my mouth shut on the next one.
Why would you do that?
I didn't actually mean it, John. It was trying to be nice.
Yeah, we knew better, Derek. It's okay.
We are making sausage, gentlemen. So
Making some sauce.
So one thing at this part of the draft is looking at small school guys.
Yeah,
That
the guys
wanna
that
catch
overlook
that-
guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is where Bobby Beathard made his money.
Mm-hmm. Not only Beathard, this is where like Kyle Smith made his money, right?
Yeah.
Even more recent.
Although, we've done really well with late round
Exactly.
picks under Ron Rivera. We've really made some hay. Our entire defensive backfield is made up of guys that are either late round picks or undrafted free agents.
Yeah, but Curl wasn't Rivera pick.
No, he wasn't. But Forrest and Butler have both been Rivera picks.
And now we're on the board again.
Did we
And
talk
Jake
about
Hayner's
Shaka
still there,
Hayward?
by the way.
Did we talk about Shaka Hayward at any point for some reason?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, I looked at him last week before we did the positional breakdown, but decided not to include him.
So we have not gotten any safety help, just as an FYI.
This isn't sorry, I said I would be quiet. I told you I lied. This is an interesting name, is Malik Cunningham, the quarterback out of Louisville. You want a late round quarterback? That guy's interesting.
Are we okay though? Like Derek, you brought up the idea of quarterback, and I know you've harped on this a little bit in the past. where you talked about how, with Ron Rivera's future in flux and there being some questions regarding his future. I know you said for, immediate starter type thing, you don't want Ron Rivera and his staff making that decision. Are you okay with Ron Rivera and his staff bringing in a late 6th, 7th round quarterback?
yeah.
Is that a completely different scenario?
Yes, my concern, my total issue is I don't want this coaching staff picking the quarterback that is going to force the next coaching staff to play them. This is not Malik. The 6th rounder is not going to force the next coaching staff to play him. This is where you take a shot in the dark. You hope you catch lightning in a bottle and you find your next late round gem. You know what I mean? I have no problem with this. What I don't want to do is spend 16 on a quarterback, and then whoever comes in next year has to play the 16th pick, or there's going to be a revolt. You can't afford. You know what I mean? Look at what Kingsbury did in Arizona. Yeah, he had a 1st round pick that he inherited. He said, "Screw it, we're going to trade that guy away. We're going to pick my guy." 3 years later, Kingsbury's out. Guess what? The quarterback is still there, and now the expectations couldn't be any lower. That's my concern.
I agree
I
with
don't
that.
want
And in the 6th round, you're looking realistically for a guy who might make the team and might be a serviceable backup quarterback for your team for a few years.
right. Anything
So-
after the 3rd, I would have no problem with. I
And
just
you're-
don't want. I don't want the 1st round pressure to come in so that whoever, if Rivera's ousted, whoever takes over, is forced to either make a make or break decision or play that player. You know what I mean? A guy in the 5th round is not going to be that.
Well, you're looking for an extra arm in camp, if nothing else.
Hey, Derek,
And-
can you click on offense for a second?
Go ahead, Mark.
I just want to see if Darius Davis is still out there or if he's long
No,
gone.
the wide receiver out of
Yeah, but he's a really interesting kick returner. That's why he is a wide receiver.
No, he
He's-
was gone.
He's
No,
there.
he's not.
No, he's
He's
there.
the 257.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay, sorry.
That's a guy that I think. I mean, he could be there, with our last pick, but
He also could be an undrafted free agent.
he could be.
So just in terms of philosophy as a team at this point in the draft, you're looking, as Paul's noted before, you're looking for potential special teams help and guys who might be able to get on the field and help you there as rookies. We haven't loaded up on linebackers, the guys who are traditionally that kind of role.
We're still looking for help at the safety position, and I've been looking at Xavier Henderson, Michigan State, 6'1", 210, 52 games in 5 years, almost 3,000 snaps.
And that is something that has jumped off the page with every pick that this coaching staff has made. Is it's guys that are experienced and guys that are leaders.
With the exception of Jamin Davis, I would agree with that statement. Yes.
I just wanted to finish the conversation on Davis. He runs a 4.2 40, returns 6 or 7 kicks for touchdowns at Beau Funk High School. I don't know what college you went to. TCU.
Yeah.
I like that idea. We did just pick a little burner guy. So that would be 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but 2 different positions. I mean, we got Eric Bieniemy, man. There ain't enough weapons you can have.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think if I'm trying to if I'm trying to build a team that's competitive and strong in all 3 phases, at this point, I'm looking for guys who can contribute right away, and that's probably going to be on special teams and who might have some upside in their position.
Also, O-line depth, I think, even though we picked 2 O-linemen.
It would not hurt my feelings to bring in another big ugly. Hell, we haven't even talked about defensive tackles.
No.
Nor should we.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
We haven't even seen Fedarian Mathis yet.
That's true.
And
And
who is the all button again?
We have Ridgeway too. I keep forgetting about Ridgeway. He's
We
intriguing.
got Ridgeway. We got James Smith Williams, who can play inside or outside.
Well, Shaka Hayward's is kind of interesting to me at this point.
What do we know about Hayward? His name, for some reason, I feel like we talked about him.
We are going to pull him up right now.
Draft Buzz has him projected as a UDFA.
Yep.
Runs a 4.53, which is top 90th percentile.
I mean, the undrafted free agent thing this is where you grab guys that you're afraid someone's going to snatch from you as an undrafted free agent.
Right, because now you have control for 3 years.
Let's see.
Am I the only one who's hovering his mouse over Derek's screen here and trying to scroll up and down?
I can give you
It's
control.
not
buddy.
working. No, you're good.
I was doing that earlier, John or Mark.
Yeah,
You're not alone. I finally just took my hand off the mouse.
I blame the Elijah Craig.
He's a cousin of two Steelers players.
Darius Hayward Bay
Yeah.
and Cam Hayward, the old defensive lineman that like set lifting records at 45 years old. Is that right?
Connor and Cam Hayward. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know Connor.
Hmm.
Oh, so NFL.com actually has him ranked at 272, and that's the highest of the rankings.
He won the team's Vincent Ray Award for team's top linebacker. Of course, it's Duke we're talking about.
You know.
So his
much people
10-yard
are shorter putts.
his 10-yard and his 40 time are tops, but the shuttle, the bench, the vertical, 3-cone, that's all kind of lower tiered.
This is where you wish you had time to go and actually look at game film of guys like this, right? Because
Yeah.
we're looking at measurables, and what we can't see is how they play
Well,
football.
this is why there are people paid a lot of money to do this 362 days a year.
So
So
in 2021, he had the most snaps of the entire team, 1,019, led the program, ranked 5th in the ACC with 98 tackles. Led the team with 11.5 tackles for a loss and 3 sacks. And then he
came back as a 5th-year senior.
Team captain, defensive MVP award recipient. He's got a little bit of a pedigree.
well, let's make a call.
I like adding another linebacker, man. We've been talking
Are we
about
going Hayward or are we going weapon? Are we going Darius? Or are we going quarterback?
At this
Paul,
point,
Paul, you have not said a thing for 3 rounds. You're the deciding factor.
Well, I don't want to sway the conversation because you guys haven't talked a lot about quarterback.
Dude, throw it out there.
There's one quarterback on there that I would consider taking, and it's the guy at the top of the list there, J.K. Gaynor, out of Fresno State. We just lost Taylor Heineke, and not that should play into the decision, but in many regards, that's a player who's got some similar attributes to a Taylor Heineke type. He's that classic overachiever. Obviously, he's a little undersized, kind of like Heineke was as well, but he's a guy that you're going to really be impressed with in terms of his intelligence, his ability to be clutch, his ability to be a leader. And we lost a lot of that with a guy like Taylor Heineke. I don't know if that would be something they're even remotely considering.
Can we call him Heineke?
He projects ultimately. Yeah, you could. He projects ultimately as being like that game manager type. And I mean, there have been some things that I've read about him where there are, scouts and whatnot, and guys within front offices that think really, really highly of him. I don't know. I don't know if the team would even consider thinking quarterback at this point, or if they would elect to just bring in another
I think-
body
I
as an
think they
undrafted free
would,
agent.
Paul, and I
don't know.
think they should consider it at this point.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
if that's the case, I would like to me he's one of those intriguing players that he almost seems like he can be one of those preseason darlings in the fourth quarter type thing, one of those fourth quarter preseason darlings that a lot of people can fall in love with. I don't know.
So here comes the debate. We're at 215. Paul's advocating for the quarterback that's available. We've talked about a wide receiver rated at 257. We pick again at 233. We've also talked about a linebacker that's rated at, where's he at?
205.
205. I'm pretty sure he doesn't fall to 230, but could that wide receiver there? What's the better combination? The quarterback and the linebacker, or wide receiver, or the linebacker and possibly the wide receiver?
I feel like we've got to have another quarterback on this roster going into training camp. We only have 3 at the moment. You got to have another guy to just throw, if nothing else.
But you can get a third quarterback anywhere. We have a third quarterback. I guess I'm not arguing that. I'm not a big fan of the draft a quarterback to draft one late, unless you think he could potentially be a starter someday or a backup someday. And my thing is, that linebacker, he could actually develop into a guy that plays, not a guy that's on the roster because you need a third quarterback. So that's my only pushback on that.
And I agree with that, John. I was just about to say something in that regards. Who ultimately, like, we're putting ourselves in Ron Rivera's seat right now, who ultimately is going to be able to contribute to the overall job security of Ron Rivera? He's not thinking about 2 years from now and what quarterbacks might be on the roster. He's thinking about saving his job beyond this year. So who ultimately is going to be able to help make a contribution in that regard for him?
That's an easy answer. The linebacker is going to be on the field on special teams from day one, and have a chance to help you much shorter term. Yeah, he's absolutely the smarter pick in the real world. The reason that you'd pick a quarterback at this point is if you really liked him and you thought he potentially would be competing with Brissett next year as the backup, or in 2024, not in 2023, but a guy who's going to play for you. And I don't know enough about him to say that knowledgeably. So logically, I think you'd go with the guy who can help you this year, and that sounds like the linebacker.
Just to play devil's advocate, quarterbacks get hurt in this league a lot. San Francisco took the last guy in the draft and went all the way to the NFC Championship game with him because quarterbacks 1 and 2 both got hurt. How many other teams were playing with their second and in a couple of cases third quarterbacks last year?
Baltimore and Miami were.
But isn't it?
Hey, hold on. Washington's done it 3 of the last 4 years. Just saying.
And what did Joe?
But in most instances, your season's over at that point. I mean,
right.
okay, you got a third quarterback. Okay. I mean, we're going to have a third quarterback regardless.
Well, and Jake Hayner's not going to see the field, right? It's going to be the third guy's going to be Fromm if we get down that far.
Maybe not. Maybe Fromm's still around just because he's around, right?
Maybe.
I'm just
but
saying,
are you saying he's going to help you win games in the playoff stretch down the road? This if we're 9-6 and we need somebody to finish the season for us, if we're down to Jake Haener, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, but see, people in San Francisco said that last year about Brock Purdy.
People in San Francisco were riding a unicorn train with that team, with the defense and the
people in San Francisco also speak a different language than we do because they have Kyle Shanahan.
Bob, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that doesn't make sense. I'm just trying to balance the scales here. That realistically, it seems to me, if you love the linebacker or if you love the quarterback and you think he could develop into something, you grab him. They obviously liked Brock.
Yeah.
So we picked
playing a little devil's advocate, Mark. I mean, I have that, when Joe Gibbs was asked who the second most important player on his team was, he said the backup quarterback.
So we've only picked 2 defensive players in the whole draft so far. All 4, the other 4 have been offense. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm actually really okay with that.
I think that is a dynamic. Like, Jack Del Rio saying, "Hey, hello."
Well,
And
whoever our special teams, I don't even know who our special teams coach is right now. It escapes me, but he's probably saying, hello, I could use some help too.
but John, the flip side of that is if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I look at Jack Del Rio and I go, sit down and shut up, boy. It's been Christmas for you for 3 years.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know, I mean, granted, one of those defensive players was the first pick.
So here's the true question. Bob.
Yeah.
Can you sign somebody off the street that is more impactful in 2023 than Jake Haener?
That's an intriguing question, and I don't know the answer to that. I haven't thought about it. Maybe.
I could also say, can you sign someone off the street who is going to be more impactful than Shaka Hayward? And you can't
But
answer.
hold on, but we're talking about the fact that we're drafting a quarterback is because that you concern yourself to the same situation that the Niners were in with Brock Purdy. That means that as a rookie, you're drafting him with the idea that he could see playing time. And I ask you, if you could go into the season and there's Jake Haener or somebody on the street available, could you potentially find more of an input there than using the draft pick?
It's possible. It's absolutely possible, Derek. I mean, you know, there are a lot of guys walking the street, you know, with NFL experience.
Let's
There's
make
also
some
a lot of
sauce.
guys playing professional football right now in a league called the XFL that are going to be available who have playing time.
Tell you what, the kid who's starting for the DC Defenders looks pretty damn good from time to time.
And you know he was on our roster for
I do.
Was
So
he? Who was it?
let's do
Jordan
this to keep.
Tuamu.
Yeah, Tamu. Let's do this to keep it going. We need to do this.
Yeah.
I vote at this point going for a special teams guy, and that sounds to me like Hayward.
That's who I said I picked Hayward. Chime in, guys.
I'm
Otherwise,
good with that. I'm good with that as well.
I looked at Hayward and I was okay with him when I was doing linebackers last week. I just felt like he was probably somebody we could sign as a UDFA, although he's moved up, I think, in the rankings since last week.
He's a good value on this board we're looking at
Yeah.
right now. Yeah,
So we're going Hayward. Is that the consensus pick?
let's do it.
Hayward it is. Again, we've had a 20-minute conversation about our 6th round pick. Can you imagine what it's like in a war room?
Well, they probably have a list of like 20 guys that they're really looking
And
at.
whoever's at the top is the pick, and there's no debating it at that point.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think it's probably easier for them to
Haener
pick
went to the Vegas
earlier
the
guys than it is to pick the later guys.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
have you guys ever seen the pictures that you see at least every couple of years? Somebody from some training facility walks by the draft room and sneaks a picture, and you
Yeah.
see the draft board on the wall. And
Yep,
there are 1,000 names filling an
Yep.
entire wall with
Mhm.
arrows and color coding, and these guys know exactly who everybody is and what they're going to do if their backup punter goes down. They've got 2 guys on speed dial that they're going to be calling within an hour.
so your Malik Cunningham is still sitting there. I know nothing about him.
He's an X Factor type player. I know it's an easy parallel to compare him to Lamar Jackson because they went to the same school, but he's cut from the same kind of cloth. Arm talent's there, physical ability, but I'm not going to sit here and say he's ever turning into Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying you can make some.
I can't believe Josh Wiley is sitting there. That's crazy. Because some drafts I've seen him in, or he's in the 5th round.
So I was going to bring that up, John, because I saw his name there, and I remember you talked fairly highly of him last week. We've already picked the tight end, I believe, in what, round 3, 97?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything on the 7th round. You take the
That-
best
that-
player available.
That's what I'm saying. Would we be out of our skulls to pick another tight end at this point, or would it?
I mean,
seem
he's
like
a physical
fairly
beast.
simple plan?
He's 6'6", 248, and he's a guy they think can pack on another 10 pounds. Ran a 4.69 40, national high jump champion in high school. really physical. He's the one that wins all the contested catches, just takes it away from guys. So, I mean, there is no way in hell he's falls to the 7th round. I can't imagine, but who knows?
The other thing to consider, and I know this is all a hypothetical situation, if we pick him, that would be 2 tight ends that we picked this year, plus also Cole Turner from a year ago. So you would have added 3 tight ends over the course of a 2-year
And John
period.
Bates the year before,
say
and
John Bates the year
Armani
before,
Rogers
yeah.
and Hodges.
Yeah, I can't see him doing that. I see a couple of safeties sitting there, and we haven't. I know it's not about need necessarily, but I wonder what we know about those 2 guys, Howden and Izzian. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, I can't be helpful with the names here. I guess I'm just looking at balancing a roster, and again, at this point, who is likely to step up and be able to help on special teams.
We also haven't added anybody on the edge, Derek.
I wasn't holding my breath in the last pod, but John, to your point, Malik Cunningham ranked as the position rank is 14th overall, 256, which is exactly Mr. Irrelevant. Actually, with the compensatories, it's not. He grades out okay. 5th-year senior, he came back and saw 10 games, threw for 1,500 plus yards. Completion percentage of 62.5, average of 7.5 per pass, 8 touchdowns, took 18 sacks, QB rating of 86.7, 100 carries for 652 yards.
6
His legs are
197.
He is paper thin. He is
Yeah.
very lanky. And he's short.
So we started with Joey Porter. Do we need more defensive backs? Because a lot of times those defensive backs are your special teams kind of guys as well.
Well, and we still haven't filled that open Bobby McCain slot.
Now you got me thinking about edge. Fehoko, I mentioned him in the pod or in the last podcast. I think his brother is Simi Fehoko, who went to Stanford.
The
I just like
receiver
his
we
last
fell
name.
in love with last year.
Yeah, the one that got drafted by the Cowboys. Fuck those guys. Oh, sorry. What did I say? He's interesting, but I don't think he's gonna. Everything I've seen from him, he's not gonna challenge any kind of real playing time. And when I was talking about edge players, I was talking about players that could come in and be impactful. We have depth there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I want to use a draft pick when we have the amount of depth that we have. It's not like that's a shallow position.
Right.
And we're not drafting a 7th round player to be some sort of long-term starter solution. It would be, you look at Shaka Toney, you look at
Smith Williams,
who can play interior or inside or outside, and you look at some of the other things like that. I think you lump these guys into that same thing, and I just don't know that it's necessary that you want to spend the capital on it.
Derek, click on special teams because we were talking about that a little while ago.
He's still there, Moody.
Yeah, that's my vote right there. Or some other kicker.
Someone to challenge Joey Sly. You know, I could easily buy into that.
I mean, a lot of people have Jake Moody as the top ranked kicker. And I actually read his draft profile.
You know, just for grin, Smith Williams was a 7th.
Look how that turned out.
229.
Didn't we take another guy who had 2 last names in the 7th round, like the year before?
So what you're saying is we need the top rated guy on this list who has 2 last names.
That's a hyphenated name.
Is that what you're saying?
Hold on, I think I'm right here. Hold on, now I gotta check.
Is Michael Turk Matthew Turk's son, or what is that all about? Anyone know?
Well, that's an interesting thought, but we have the punter, so we can't.
I know.
We can't take him on.
Yeah, William Bradley King. We took William Bradley King in 2021.
That's
I told
right.
you.
I don't believe he's around anymore, right?
No, he still plays in the league. I don't know if he plays for us, but he's still bold on PFN or Pro Football Reference.
I'm okay with a kicker here. I'm okay with a safety here that can play special teams and potentially work into the rotation. I mean, we seem to be pretty good at picking defensive backs late.
Those are exactly my thoughts, Bob. I'm happy with either one of those. The place kicker to come in and challenge, or depth in the defensive backfield at safety.
So
And
Jake Moody has like the best porn mustache. I don't know if you can see that.
There's another name
That's gonna count for something.
Why
Here's
did
his-
he fall?
He's 6'1", 208. He is, let's see. Here,
what are you doing, brother?
Alex Forsyth. That guy.
Coming soon.
Well, sorry, but that's just because that's their scouting. Alex Forsyth was a name that was. He was third, fourth, fifth round is a month ago, and he's fallen this far. I don't, and I don't know why. I can't figure out why.
I'm trying to find Moody's stats, but I'm not having any luck.
So the one thing to consider with adding a kicker at this point in the draft, you're literally at pick 233. You're late in the 7th round here. You talk about contributions as being a bonus at this point in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of the last 2 years, we've been, last year we were right there on the cusp of the playoffs. The year before we were sitting at, I believe, 6-6 and in a playoff spot, and we let it slip away type thing. We had some situations last year, the season before as well, where special teams had a huge impact on some pretty close losses. I don't know, if you bring in some competition for Joey Sly, you are potentially adding a player who can be a difference maker in the wins and losses column.
So
Hopefully in the wins column, but you're potentially adding someone who can make a contribution on game day, and I don't think you can ask more than that.
So Moody was won the Lou Groza Award for the nation's best kicker in 2021, was arguably better in 2022, led the nation with 29 made field goals, has not missed an extra point in his college career.
Hold on, timeout. Can y'all look at the screen and explain to me that this guy's name is actually Bumper Pool?
Well,
He did go to Arkansas.
Hold on.
Foosball was taken in the 6th, man. So
I would draft that guy because of his name.
Maybe they just throw some names in there just to see if anyone's paying attention.
Who the hell is Bumper Pool? I'm sorry.
Oh my God. I feel like it needs to be our mission to educate America on who Bumper Pool is by drafting him. But
so I just did a search on him and I typed in Bumper Pool. I did not type in Bumper Pool NFL draft. And the first thing that came up is Bumper Pool is a cue sport played on a rectangular, sometimes octagonal table filled with two pockets.
Saying. Bumper Pool. That can't be right.
So PFN that we're working on has Moody as their 3rd best kicker. I have to read this because when I'm done reading it, clearly we're going to have to draft him. It's been 20 years since Michigan had a kicker selected in the draft, but Jake Moody isn't your average Wolverine. He's a ball striking sensation, a special teams wonder. Last season converted 92% of his field goals, all 56 extra point attempts. Mr. Joey Sly, please pick up the white
in weather, also in Michigan, in weather.
Became the first player in school history to win the coveted Lou Groza Award. His magic season was reminiscent of his electric freshman campaign. And then it goes on to however, so we won't read that part. But just let's see, he completed 79.2% of his kicks throughout his career, over 50% on his 50-yarders. Has the leg strength and clutch gene to come up big when the game's on the line. So he has a chance to make it as an NFL kicker. But I have to throw this out there as devil's advocate again, too. There are also kickers floating around the league that, like, the Commanders release one every year that ends up catching on somewhere else. So you
And
don't
doing well.
necessarily have to draft a kicker.
Dustin Hopkins may be available again.
Those are the two sides of that coin. I hear Mosley looks pretty good.
He's learning to kick side-footed.
There you go. Well, we
I
have to
think-
make a choice, gentlemen.
My vote, run with Moody. At this point, we're just throwing darts at a wall at this point.
We kind of
Try to
are.
figure it out. Huh?
We kind of are. Plus, he's got a porn mustache, so that's a win.
He does.
He doesn't have a name like Bumper Pool, but at least he can be Moody. A Moody kicker, that's like the easiest pun ever.
Well, we had one named, what was his
Moody
name?
and Cheeseman. Come
No,
on.
with our kicker.
Oh no,
who's-
Kai Forbath.
Cobra
That was
Kai.
great. That
No,
was
we
the
also we
greatest
had a
ever.
kickoff. We had a kicker last year briefly whose name was like Miss or something.
No, it was, oh my gosh.
Right?
Blew
Yeah.
it.
Blew it.
Blew it,
Yep.
yeah.
So we lead the league in appropriate names for failed players.
All right, we're going Jake Moody, and we're going
Thank
to
you.
finish this draft up. It's been almost 2 hours.
It's
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
That's-
I laughed earlier. I think somebody talked over it, but I said, we were thinking this was going to be one of the shorter pods.
I was hope, not think.
We didn't put ourselves on the clock. Why don't we do that next year? We'll run a 10-minute clock or something.
Oh Lord.
Seriously, just let's make it a little more realistic. Can I make one quick request before we go? Let's look at our total picks and then real quick look at the NFC East and see what our opposition did.
Sure, we can do that.
Well, New York picked all cornerbacks.
Right.
It's almost over. I guess I can do this now.
There you go.
So we got Porter, Avia, Kuntz, Dennis, Oluwatimi, Deuce Vaughn, Shaka Hayward, and Jake Moody. I think down here we're just talking about people that can find a way on the field and matter, right? We're
Yeah, and I
past the
think
point of
you're looking at starters with the first 3 pick, hopefully by the end of the first year, or even in their second year.
right.
I don't think anyone's going to grade us as an A, but I think that's a pretty solid draft overall.
I don't know. When
So-
you compare our needs, you got to consider this pretty strong.
I agree. I'm just thinking about what everyone
Well, Kuiper will
gives
say-
draft grades the next year. It's like, well, I don't recognize that name, so that's a bad pick.
Does PFN give a grade?
I don't
Hold on,
think
I'm
they
trying to-
do.
I don't think they do either. I'm trying to snip our actual. There we go.
really-
Now we got that saved.
I've really started ignoring all those grades anyway, because they're all predicated on how you pick against their ratings. So
Right.
if they had Joey Porter rated at 19 and we picked him at 16, they don't consider that necessarily an A plus.
Yep.
It's like an A minus. Doesn't matter that we needed a cornerback.
No one had Dotson as an A pick either, I'm sure.
Right.
So we got to, before we go, guys, we got to pick, everyone's got to vote on their favorite pick of the round.
Hold on, I'm posting our picks to our private message so that I can pull it back up for the thread, or John can. All right. My favorite pick. Go ahead. Actually, I'll yield. I yield you.
John, you go. You have someone in mind.
I like pick number 47, Avila. I think that guy's going to be a badass.
That's where I was going to.
Yeah, I think you win tonight with that pick, Bob. We have stunk on day 2 of the draft for a while. And I think that's about as safe as a second round pick as you can get.
Yeah. Just looking at this list, I mean, I think Kuntz is a pretty solid pick, and I'm not I'm not unhappy with that. I hate the idea of taking a tight end that high, but I think he may be worth it. And my biggest problem with Porter is just the sheer number of number ones we've sunk into the defense. Has nothing to do with Porter, which is not his fault, right? So,
That's
but
fair.
yeah, I like Avila, and I think he walks right into the starting lineup and makes the offensive line better.
Now, if Porter lines up and by midseason is locking down one side, we are gonna, we're gonna love it. That's the hope in taking a guy that high on defense at this point. I'm looking for him to be starting by the second half of his rookie year.
All right, I'll make it unanimous and say Avila. But one thing I do want to point out is that we've done this 3 times now. This time, I think we honestly, this is not what you would consider to be a sexy draft. We've gone into these drafts with under Rivera, and we've wondered, and we've looked at things, and we've had our flashy picks, and we've had, but he has not followed the sexy template. You know what I mean? Like, we've looked at all of his picks and been like, well, Jesus, that's a boring pick, but the dude's going to start day one. I think this draft actually has a lot that, it kind of follows that template a little more than we've done in years past.
I'd agree with that. This
All right.
this draft to me feels like it could legitimately be what we do. Maybe not the right names, but the positions. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the Giants picks for you, Mark. You wanted to run down the East.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a quick peek at what our
That's a
loyal
need.
opposition did.
They definitely need a wide receiver. We laughed that they took 3 cornerbacks.
They got
I'm also
Wiley's
kind of
appeal.
laughing. They took a defensive tackle at 89, when they've got the only other tackle tandem in the league that really gives Allen and Payne a run for their money.
Yeah, but we took a tackle in the 2nd round.
Yeah. No, I know. I just feel like the Giants have.
Guess what's better than having 2 really good interior D linemen? Having a 3rd one you can put in there so nobody gets tired.
Yeah, it's true.
They
took Ruggles.
Yeah,
took
they took
Ruggles, yeah.
Ruggles at 209.
Which
Okay,
I
how
find
about,
interesting because they've got a good kicker, don't they?
I couldn't
Who's
name
kicking
him,
for
but
New York?
They have a former Redskins kicker.
Isn't Gano?
Yeah.
And he was one of the better kickers in the league this year.
what'd the Cowboys do?
I was going Eagles first.
Okay.
Save the worst for last. Now I gotta find them. Where are they?
All their picks are in the first round, Derek.
Jesus Christ, they don't have a single pick in day 3. What is going? Oh, here they go. They don't. Good Lord. That's
No,
a big one. Like, I kind of hope they take Bijan Robinson and they follow the suit of the Giants having to overpay for a running back, and the Cowboys. Let them pay Bijan Robinson $20 million.
if you're the Eagles and you're a Super Bowl team and you're looking for something to put you over the top, that pick makes sense for them.
Especially
It
after you
does.
just paid your quarterback what they
What do
paid
you
their-
got? What are you guys gonna do? Because I see him mocked to us a lot. What do you think? What are you gonna do if we pick Robinson at 16 if he's there?
Root like hell and hope they're right.
I'm gonna have a
throw
fit.
something.
Just telling you.
I will be unhappy. It'd be a lot of fun to watch him run, but it would just be such a counterproductive pick.
So I said root like hell and hope that they're right.
Well, yeah,
but
for
with
3
Philadelphia-
years,
that-
and then you got to make a Saquon Barkley decision, and I don't want to have to do that.
With Philadelphia's offensive line, Robinson could be a beast for the next 3 or 4 years.
We're good on Robinsons.
All right, evil incarnate. Let's see what they got.
Well, somebody did point out, what are you going to do if they run a read option with Jalen Hurts getting the snap, Bijan Robinson in the backfield, and what the hell's AJ Brown running a slant?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them. I think that would be a solid pick for them.
There's Dallas. There's Dallas.
Where? Up?
Right there.
I can't see that ugliness. Sorry. It's scary to see that guy playing on their offense. More weapons. Other than that, nothing jumps out.
No.
I'll tell you what jumps out. I feel like Dallas has got to pick an offensive lineman higher than
174.
Yeah. I feel like they absolutely need some help on their offensive. For years, their offensive line was the strength of the team, and now those guys are getting a little long in the tooth.
Well, they also could never stay healthy. That was
All of them missed time every year.
I think I take our draft over their draft. I think I take our draft over Call me biased, you know what? F those guys, but I think I like our draft better than any of the other 3 teams.
Well, I think we didn't really do a whole lot of reaching, and I thought we had reasonable reasons to make the picks that we did. So I'm comfortable with that. We thank anyone who hung around with us this long to listen to all of this.
Yeah.
And weigh in, come on the board where we'll post the results and let us know what you think and what you would have done differently.
Absolutely.
You guys brought honor on yourselves tonight with your
Wow.
incredible selections.
That's the
We-
that's the bourbon talking.
This is fun for us people out there. I hope it's fun for you out there too. So we'll see
right.
all of you good people
Charlotte.
next
In a couple
time.
weeks.
Same BGO channel, same BGO time.
That's right.
All right.